are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. Say go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go. Say go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go.
Hello and welcome back to the Knicks Pod, episode 7. Josh Byrne, Connor Thompson, and making his Knicks Pod debut, Kaya Esgun. Kaya, thank you for joining the Knicks Pod. Our most loyal fan right there. He's listened to all 6, and we got some great things to talk about today. The NBA schedule officially was released. The Knicks have some really interesting games on their docket and a lot of really tough matchups in the Eastern Conference this year. We're also going to be talking about more trade rumors because it is that time of year where, you know, there's quite a few trade rumors, and regardless of how the Knicks are expected to do, they're always in the middle of those types of wild superstar trade rumors and, you know, speculation about where guys are going to go. And of course, FIBA, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, all participating. Even Evan Fournier is participating. We'll talk about what they've been doing and if that actually matters and how that could play in to the beginning of the upcoming season. But first off, I want to give our newest member of the Knicks Pod, Kaya, talk about your fandom, diehard Knicks fan, how you got into the team, and yeah, man, just talk about your experience following the Knicks through the years.
Yeah, of course. So thank you guys first for having me. I appreciate it. It's nice to kind of talk about the Knicks a little bit, even though, you know, like you said, there's not much going on right now, but this is still exciting, and, you know, there's some good things we'll touch on. But me being a Knicks fan, I've been a Knicks fan since I was playing basketball, and I started playing basketball when I was in I think it was kindergarten, first grade. So I'm 22 now. This has been a while. I've been a lifelong Knicks fan, so I have a lot of guys in my head I'm thinking about right now from when I first started watching, Al Harrington, Chris Duhon, David Lee. You know, these sort of guys popping into my head when I think about first starting to actually follow the Knicks. You know, definitely a lot of lows more than highs, but recently it's starting to be kind of going on the upswing, which is really nice. So yeah, man, you know, I've been following the Knicks pretty much my whole life. I've been a basketball fan my whole life. I love to play, love to watch it. I think it's one of the most exciting sports. So yeah, I'm super excited to get into today's episode and talk a little about the Knicks with you guys.
David Lee, that's a real one right there. I mean, what year? That's mid to late 2000s we're talking, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely. It was probably the mid 2000s, late 2000s, exactly. And it's funny because I also think about the way I used to my view of some players then versus now. You know, I wasn't really into the stats as much. I was more just a fan watching because I was also so much younger. And I'm you know, some guys I'm he was whatever. And then I check their stats and I'm damn, he was kind of nice. You know, it's just funny to think about the way it changes too when you reflect on it. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Any specific Knicks teams over the years that you really connected with or really got you into the team? Or, you know, you mentioned there's been a lot of pitfalls with the Knicks. We haven't seen a ton of winning. We've had our moments, but which teams have really stuck out to you over the years and you really have a lot of fond memories with?
Yeah, so I think honestly the first good team I witnessed was probably the Melo, Tyson Chandler, Iman Shumpert, J.R. Smith. That team when we finally made the playoffs and had a winning record, and you know Melo was the scoring title leader and all that. Those were some pretty prime time moments for the Knicks, I think, in recent years. But I think honestly my favorite team is now. I think this is the best team that the Knicks have probably had in my lifetime ever, which I guess isn't that long. But at the same time, it's pretty exciting since, you know, this is, you know, what better time than the present. So it's fun to see what we did last year, and winning a series against a good Cleveland team was really, really awesome to see, especially going into it. You know, not a lot of people thought, I think, that the Knicks would win that, except for Knicks fans, obviously, because we're biased. But yeah, no, I mean, it was awesome to see the last couple of years kind of seeing how our draft picks have played out and some guys that we've gotten it through free agency or trades. So yeah, I'd say my favorite team probably is the most recent team we have now within the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of great teams to choose from, but obviously, right now, if you're a Knicks fan, you got to be ecstatic. This is extremely exciting. I
Hell
mean,
yeah.
we've had seasons like you mentioned, 2012, 2013. Amari Stoudemire comes over around 2010.
Yeah.
He makes the Knicks a respectable destination. The trade for Melo, and of course the 54-win season. But after that, I mean, Amari, his knees kind of not holding up, and
Yeah.
Melo playing on some teams that just didn't have enough talent around him, forcing the Knicks fans to just go through a lot of lean years. And it
Yeah.
feels like we're finally pulling out of that. And it wasn't just 1 year in 2020. It was 2 of the last 3 years where the Knicks were not necessarily like a top flight team, but they were respectable, man. And that's really all this fan base has asked for such a long time. I mean, Knicks fans are so
Yeah.
passionate. We just
Just
want a
the playoffs,
respectable product.
Yeah,
Just
literally,
want some
just get us
playoff
Exactly.
there.
action.
Well, now I
Just be in
want to
the
win
mix.
another
Yeah.
playoff
And
series.
that's
I want to win
exactly
two. That's the next
Yeah,
step.
now exactly. Yeah, let's go
Exactly.
for two
The
now
next
that we've
step, we
won
gotta
one.
win two.
I agree.
Yeah.
And honestly, last
Let's not
season,
go another
that was
decade
kind of our
without winning a
chance.
playoff
Oh,
series.
God.
Yeah, no more
Yeah.
of that. We got a
Honestly,
point
last
guard
year we
now,
had a
so
pretty good chance. Yeah. Yeah. No,
It's
I think we're in a good direction. I think honestly that we have a really good chance too at actually achieving that goal of like winning two playoff series next year. But obviously we'll see. We'll see when the time comes.
yeah, it's a tough season.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a lot about seeing where this team can grow in the future, because it's not like they added that many splashy pieces. It's not like they
No.
acquired a superstar over the offseason. If they're going to get better this year, it's going to come down to guys within the roster that they already had before stepping up
Yeah.
their game. And
Yeah.
I think we all know who those guys are, those main candidates, and we'll get into more of that later. But I think we all expect, rightfully so, for this team to be a solid playoff team, not just a play-in team, not just a team that, oh, maybe if everything goes right, they'll squeak out 42 wins. No, like the expectation is back-to-back playoff
Yeah.
berths, because they made it last year, and to at least win another playoff series and be competitive again, because the more you do that, the more likely it becomes that eventually they'll be able to bring in some top tier talent and have a greater
Exactly.
chance of bringing home a chip. So obviously a lot of excitement. And even though we're in a time of the year where not much is going on, the schedule was finally released, the official NBA schedule. Do you guys get excited about that, or is it just like something that doesn't really matter that much to you?
I don't
Connor,
really
you
care
go
about
first.
it. I mean, it's nice to see who you're playing, but like realistically, you're going to play like most teams that you played last year. Like we're going to have to stack up against
Yeah.
the Sixers, the Celtics, like 4 times, which is pretty much every year. And then like, I don't know, you have to play the Heat, the Bucks, every single team again, I think 3 times. And that's every
Yeah.
year. And I mean, the only thing I look forward to is the prime time schedule, because I like to see, oh, okay, we're playing on ESPN that night. Like that might be like, it's a better
Yeah.
game or better media coverage, so gets more fans in it. But that's really about it for the schedule.
Yeah, I think for me, I didn't even honestly look at the schedule until about 10 minutes ago for the first time. I mean, I knew it was out, and I saw that, like, the first, like, 10 games or whatever, since that's what, like, showed up on the link somebody sent me. But, like, I haven't even, like, looked through it yet. And actually seeing, our start to the season, I'm like, shit, that's going to be quite a test. But it'll be good, I think, honestly, to kind of, like, start off playing good teams. Because, like, if we can start, like, like 500 or a little bit above that, I mean, that would be like awesome, because then from there on out, we'd be a little easier with the teams we play. But yeah, I agree with Connor. I mean, I'm not really like, oh my God, schedule just dropped. I'm like freaking out. It's more just like, okay, like it's cool to know that like the season's around the corner. But yeah, and like Connor said with the national games, knowing who's like which games are going to be having more coverage. But at the same time, I love my MSG network with Clyde and Mike Breen. So
Best booth in the league.
yeah, it is. Either way, honestly, it's a win, because I love watching like a national game or just like a MSG game. So
Yeah, it is funny with the Knicks. it they're always going to get their primetime games. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. The eyes are always going to be on us. Most of the time, it puts us in a position to be, the butt of a lot of jokes across national sports media. But hey, last year, Knicks exceeded expectations, both, I think, within the fan base. I don't think a lot of fans, as you mentioned, Kaya, were expecting us to win that Cleveland series. I mean, yeah, Knicks fans, there's always going to be the confident bunch, but I got to tell you, man, I can't say I was expecting the Knicks to go as far as they did last year. And even
Yeah.
leading up to that Cleveland series, as elated as I was that they won the 47 games, that they were in the position that they were in, I didn't have a load of confidence going into that series. But I'll tell you what, though, once they beat Cleveland, I was pretty confident about Miami, and that's just always how it goes, right? Like
Yeah.
anytime you get confident they're going to win a playoff series. 2 years ago when they played Atlanta, I was very confident, way too confident, more
Man.
confident than I should have been when they played the Hawks that series. And of course, that was a rude reality check of the fact that that team probably just wasn't quite good enough to go on a run. But first 10 games of the season, you mentioned it. Celtics, Hawks, Pelicans, Cavs twice, Bucks, Clippers. What is your projection of how they open up the season, those first 10 games, and how important is it for them to get off to a good start?
You go, Connor, and then I'll go.
Well, I think every single game right there is competitive. It could go either way. Those are all good teams. The Clippers, the Pelicans, even if Zion Williamson is healthy, shit, that could be trouble. So honestly, I'm gonna go with what Kai said. I hope we could get to 500, 5-5 to split. But if we're like maybe 4-6, I wouldn't be too mad about that. And I'm also not worried about having a fast start because it's an 82 game season. You got to play 82 games. So it's going to take time to just build. We have some new guys that we added, so we have to see how the chemistry gels with them. And so, yeah, it might take more than 10 games, but I do hope that we win at least 4 of them. If we start off like 1-9, then we might have some serious issues, but we'll see about that.
Don't even say. I feel like, honestly, the Knicks usually start the season pretty slow. Usually we're always like around 500 or a little bit below. I mean, in the last couple of years, I'm speaking more on. But yeah, I think 4 or 5 games, aiming to win 4 or 5 games would be, a good goal because these are some tough teams here. I mean, we should beat Cleveland. They might win one of those games since it's back-to-back games. But I feel like we should beat the Pelicans. I feel like we should beat the Hawks. Boston, Milwaukee, Clippers, those teams are, a little bit stronger. So I don't know if I can expect a win from those. But I mean, you never know with the Knicks, man. They sometimes beat the really good teams and they struggle against the bad teams. So it's, we're just going to kind of have to wait and see.
3-1 with the Celtics last year in the season series, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were a pretty good record against them.
And we did also win the season series last year against the Heat before the playoffs, of course. We won the season series. And all those games were super back and forth. The Knicks, I think Thibs has a lot to do with it, so I think he deserves some credit. They, even when the talent level clearly doesn't match up to who they're playing, they always play up to their competition. Now, they also play down to their competition. They always seem to struggle against the Magic, who, by the way, could be a respectable team this year. But, yeah, man, I think it could really go either way. But as you said, Connor, they just got to avoid the 1-9 start. Just you can't dig yourself into a huge hole early on, and anything 4 wins or better. I think with that schedule, first 10 games, you got to take that. You got to take that and run. So, of these top Eastern teams, most of them that they're going to see in those first 10 games, the Bucks, the Heat, Celtics, Sixers, and Cleveland. Who do you think amongst those teams is going to be the Knicks' toughest competition? Basically, I'm asking, who is the cream of the crop in the Eastern Conference after this offseason is near complete?
Well, if the Heat get Dame, it's probably going to be the Heat. But if they, I don't know what's happening with that situation. So I would currently say Milwaukee. I think just Giannis, he's going to have one of those years. I think he's going to be on that revenge season. He's going to try to get MVP and just lead the Bucks. And they're always a good team. They have great players, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton. So, I mean, yeah, honestly, wait, is Chris Middleton on like trade rumors though? I thought I've heard something about that.
I think I might
But
have also seen some stuff, but it was a while ago, and there hasn't been
okay,
anything since. He's probably staying.
yeah, yeah. If they keep that original unit, I think they'll be the cream of the crop. I don't know. There's a lot of good teams in the East though. Celtics scare me all the time, but I feel like we
Yeah,
have the Celtics number. I just don't.
I
Celtics fans are gonna
agree.
get mad, but I feel like we do.
Yeah, I do too. I think honestly, like the Heat and the Bucks are like the teams to worry about for us personally. Like, yeah, the Celtics obviously they have a great team, but I think that like you said, Connor, we kind of have their number, and I feel like maybe we could sneak a playoff series against them and win it.
We
But I
could.
don't know. Yeah, I think definitely the Bucks and the Heat. I mean, Cleveland, we beat, so I expect to beat them. Atlanta, I don't know. Atlanta, like, yeah, Josh a little bit touched on the series a couple years ago, which was so painful. But like now, I feel like we usually beat them. I think last season, the regular season. I don't remember what
Yeah,
our
the
record
Hawks
was
are
against
weird.
them, but um, yeah, they have a weird team, and like I don't know. I feel like they're just inconsistent. So I think yeah, those two teams are at the top with the Heat and the Bucks.
Yeah, I think the Heat and the Bucks, talent wise, assuming the Dame trade goes through, and I think it will. I think it's like somewhat similar to the Aaron Rodgers Jets situation where it's kind of just you're expecting it to happen and the both parties are waiting around for whatever the reason may be. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna, you know, put myself in a position where I'm expecting the Heat not to get him. It's painful, but the
Yeah,
reality is they're probably gonna get him, and they're probably gonna be one of, if not the best team in the NBA once they do, because I mean, what was one of their main weaknesses last year? That was shooting. It was consistent point guard play.
yeah,
Heat fans were constantly complaining about Kyle Lowry before he absolutely balled out in the playoffs. But now with Dame starting and Lowry coming off the bench, I mean that is just that's just a ridiculously good team. And I think last year you saw that this Heat Knicks matchup is becoming a rivalry. When you
mm,
begin to win games and there's more attention paid on you as a team, you know, there's always going to be talk of rivalries. And for a lot of years, I feel like the Knicks didn't really have any passionate rivalries because we were kind of just dog shit. Like it didn't
yeah,
matter. But
yeah,
now that they're in the conversation, they're going to the playoffs. If you had to ask me, who is the Knicks' biggest rival right now, I think I'd have to say the Miami Heat. I know it was like that in the 90s. I'm too young to have seen that, obviously. But I think right now it's definitely the Heat. So what do you guys think of that?
yeah. I think the Heat are. I would agree, honestly. I think, especially after the playoff series. I don't know. Jimmy Butler kind of gets on my nerves, man. Sometimes, and
Exactly,
like
man.
he faked one of
I
these
hate Jimmy.
injuries late in the game. This is like within the last couple of years. I don't think it was last year. I think it was the year before. I remember I was watching the game and like it was a close game, right? And it was like a regular season game. So like, it wasn't like a playoff game or anything he did this in, but like I just remember him like acting like he got hurt. He falls on the ground and then the camera kind of like zooms in on his face and he has this little smirk and I'm like, bro, like you're just like wasting the clock right now. And like let's just play basketball and play the fucking game. Like I don't know. So yeah, I think the Heat probably. I do like some players on the Heat, like Gabe Davis. That guy's nice. And yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I mean, especially after the series last, I really wish we could have got that last one that we got eliminated in because like our guys just didn't show up, but like we had a chance, but it is what it is. It's in the past.
It is in the past, and look, man, it's annoying because you look back on it and it's like that was a winnable series. I'm sure
Yeah,
every team that got eliminated by the Heat last year is probably thinking the same
saying
things
that.
where
Yeah.
it's like, how do
Yep.
we let Max Struess and Gabe Vincent, beat us? But
Oh, I
but
said
Gabe
Gabe
Vincent, let's be
Davis.
honest, he always kills the Knicks. It doesn't matter if the Knicks are good, if they're trash. It's just when he
Yeah,
plays the Knicks, something turns on. This man is hitting all of his shots, and
yeah,
I mean, the Heat were just hitting all their shots that series. There wasn't much the Knicks could do. Of course, the Knicks shooting was incredibly inconsistent, and Josh Hart and Emmanuel Quickly was completely dormant. I mean, they
yeah,
they really had some unfortunate struggles during that series, but look, man, you can only complain so much when the team goes to the second round of the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. So, hopefully those
True.
players bounce back. And a couple of those players have been playing. They're currently, gearing up. They're in FIBA right now. And Josh Hart, Evan Fournier, Jalen Brunson, and RJ Barrett are all participating, and they're all playing pretty well. Hart's averaging 5.5 points with 7.5 rebounds. Brunson, 11.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, 3 assists. And RJ's averaging over 20 points per game with Team Canada. So, first of all, do you guys enjoy the fact? Do you like the fact that they're actually playing in this thing, or does it get you a little nervous with potential injuries? Because I've heard people talk about that before. Or is this just a good thing to build up the workload heading into the season? And how much do you actually take away from this? Like, is there reason to believe that they're actually improving, or they can take what they're doing now into the season? Or is this just, something to just keep our minds entertained during the off season?
Connor, you go.
I mean, yeah, I think there are a lot of takeaways from this nice little tournament. I mean, specifically with one key player in mind, and I think we all know who, RJ Barrett. But going back to your point about the injuries, I mean, I'm not really I want RJ to get this experience right now, so I'm not really worried about his usage or anything. But guys like Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, you got a stacked team with USA. You don't need to play them a lot of minutes, and I don't think they have been playing a lot. So I think their workload's fine. I'm not really worried about any injuries. They're basketball players at the end of the day. If they weren't going to play for Team USA, they would play open runs at a basketball court somewhere. So they're going to play all the time. So I'm not really worried about that. But yeah, I really think the main takeaway from this is RJ Barrett. I mean, man, he's been hitting his shots, right? That's what we wanted to see from RJ. We saw a little bit in the playoffs, and now, he's doing it right now in the summer. So I don't know. I hope he carries this over, but I'm just happy as hell. RJ's balling out right now. I don't care where he's playing, as long as he's shooting well.
Yeah, no, I actually saw a video on Instagram too that said that it was a video of RJ shooting. I think I sent it to you guys too, and he was in the corner and it was a three, and it said he changed his jump shot again. This guy's changed his jump shot I think five
Yeah, I
different
know.
times, but this one seems to be working so far the best. So and then yeah, he's just been balling out. I mean, even on the fast break, and he's shooting really efficiently and he's doing it all. I think it's really nice that he's playing with Shy too, and he's probably learning from him, and they seem like they have a nice little chemistry as well. But in terms of being nervous about these guys playing now, I'm not nervous at all. Like Connor said, they're not playing that many minutes. I think it's better for them to be playing in this league than not, because it's better runs than what an open gym would be too. Anyways, it's quality basketball. Yeah, and they're working on their game, so I'm happy to see that they're playing, and I'm happy to see that they're being successful, because it's just kind of preparing them for the next season, I think. So yeah, no, I'm really happy to see that they're all doing pretty well. And my guy Evan Fournier, who you guys
Oh boy.
hate.
Sure.
No, no, no. I'm honestly too. I'm not really the biggest Evan Fournier fan. There was another clip on Instagram I saw. This was in their most recent game where they got eliminated, where he hits the three, and then a couple plays later, he just gets absolutely crossed, and he just stands there at the 3-point line and watches his man just do the easiest layup, and I'm like, that's exactly why he's not playing basketball anymore. Obviously,
that's the definition
great
of him.
shooter. Yeah, he was just, and even sometimes when he was playing a lot of his minutes, and when he was a starter, he obviously struggled sometimes, and he wasn't a 40% 3-point shooter every single game. He would have great games, and then he would drop down to not making any threes. So I think it's good that that Grimes has kind of taken his role, and we're giving minutes to the younger guy to develop more. I just wish we didn't sign him to such a crazy long contract and pay him so much money. I mean, I guess it's not crazy long, but a pretty substantial amount of time and money. That's the only reason why I think we should play him. Maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes a game. I don't know, something as a little bit of spark for some shooting and threes. But yeah, that dude's a liability on defense, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you
Yeah,
only
liability's
played.
putting it nicely, and I've said this before. If it's hating, then I'm guilty of hating, man. It's just this guy.
Yeah.
If he's not hitting his shots, what value does he provide?
Yeah.
And the Knicks are like the last team that would be tolerant of his style of play. Like maybe
Yeah.
if he was on like a rebuilding team that needed some veteran leadership and a guy to just put up shots and get some playing time on the floor. I feel like, Evan Fournier could do great in that situation. And I feel like he's still a productive player offensively to the point where if the Knicks were willing to just give him away for like absolutely nothing, I feel like someone would be willing to take
It would take.
on part of his contract, but
Yeah, I mean,
I
he's got
could
a
be wrong about that.
4-year.
But at the end of the day, like even if they aren't able to find a trade suitor, and it doesn't seem like they have, I still would much rather see Quentin Grimes on the floor because I think shooting wise he has the potential to be almost as effective, not as effective. He's not going to be like a sharpshooter to the point that Evan Fournier was at his, career heights, but he can be a solid shooter. And defensively, it's not even a competition. All around, he adds way more to the team than Fournier does. And benching Fournier and starting some of the other kids doing the rotation transformation after, what was it, 20 games last year or 24 games, that completely turned the season around. So I don't see any path forward for Evan Fournier on the Knicks.
Yeah, I didn't even realize his contract was this much money. God, I mean, I did, but I just haven't looked at it in a bit. I'm looking at it now. It's 4 years, $73 million, and it's all fully guaranteed. And he got 54 million guaranteed at signing. I just hope that
Yeah,
we find a spot for him because, like, he's just eaten. Man, the Knicks have such a
he's not
history of
playing.
just signing guys that don't do anything. Sometimes, like we're so excited about them at first. Like Joakim Noah is another player that pops into my
Oh,
head. And
jeez.
we give them all this money, we sign them on a decent amount of time for the contract, and they play like well maybe for the first year, and then like the rest of the contract they're just shit. So
Yeah.
man,
Well, in a lot of cases, Joakim Noah never really played well on the
yeah,
Knicks.
he
And
didn't.
Evan
Got him when he was
Fournier,
like
I
a
guess,
senior.
like his first year was all right,
Yeah,
sort of.
It was fine.
I mean, he
He was
played
the
his first
Celtics
year,
killer.
so he put up, like 18 points a game. He is
yeah,
the
yeah.
Celtics
He
killer.
He
was,
broke
he
the
was.
He broke the franchise
Yeah.
record or something of threes. So I mean, he did his
Yeah,
job.
and he broke the record for threes as well.
Yeah,
So
like
it's just the defense, man. It's so bad. It's so bad.
yeah. And I just feel like
So
in a
I mean,
In a Thibodeau
Tibbs.
offense, we can't have Evan being a brick wall standing out there. And it takes
Nah.
away, like, if you give him 10 minutes a game, it takes away 10 minutes away from the young guys that need it to grow. But, I mean, I will say, Kai, if we're, like, in a
Yeah, that's
situation where we're down, like, 20 points and we need some threes, like, yeah, I honestly say, fuck it, send in Evan Fournier. If he makes
Throw
a
him in
couple
there.
threes, he's
Yeah.
got a hot
Well,
hand, let him play.
if he's
But
never going to play.
well, I feel like that's
What'd you
unfair
say,
for him to
Josh?
not play a single
If he-
game. Like that would be fucked
Well,
up.
the
if he
thing is,
played
he's not
0
going to play a
games.
single game as it is, though.
Yeah,
This
that
is
is
why
true.
they either need to just, bite the bullet and just release him or trade him for
Ugh.
like a bag of
It's-
balls. But
Just
like
trade him for some
Sit-
draft picks or
at
something,
this
like
point,
some
he's
link.
what if
clearly
injuries
unhappy
were to
in New
happen
York.
and we need
Yeah.
to play? You never know. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But here's
Because
the
if we
thing, though.
release him, we still beat
Part of me
that.
believes even if that were to happen, dude, like I just don't think. Even if that were to happen, I don't think they're going to play him. They're going to go to somebody else because, like,
Probably.
Deuce
if he
McBride.
can't play defense, that is all that Thibs cares about. It doesn't matter that he can get
Yeah.
hot and put up like 15 points in 6 minutes off the bench. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
And
he's
also,
not
we
gonna
don't know
want
about
that.
the relationship because I'm not trying to like make something when there's nothing there, but we do know that Obi Toppin and
Oh
Tom
yeah, he said
Thibodeau
that. Mhm.
had some sort of fight, and that led to him getting traded. And
Yeah,
based on the public comments that Evan Fournier has made about how he,
how he fits in
was
the team.
able to take that transition where he didn't play anymore, it sounds like he's not happy. And I have to assume that he's less than thrilled with the way that things have gone between him and Thibs. So this is a situation beyond just like basketball. If we're playing 2K, man, and I'm bricking all my shots, and Fournier's still on the roster, like yeah, I put him in. Like it's and he's definitely an NBA caliber player still to some
Yeah.
capacity, but I just don't think under any circumstances he's playing with the Knicks. I could be
Yeah.
wrong though. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, time to
Yeah,
tell. I
no,
only think it's with
his
injuries or
time is pretty much
blowouts.
done.
Yeah. Oh, I think I'll get traded by
Yeah.
midseason. The Knicks are
I
going to do
agree.
that,
Well,
the
a guy who
midseason trade
will-
they always do.
Yeah. Well, let's hope he gets traded for his
Yeah.
well-being and just so that we don't have to talk about Evan Fournier anymore because no one
Yeah,
seems
I
to
know,
really
right?
know what's going on.
Every episode.
Oh,
But a guy
man.
who will be playing, I'm pretty sure, is Julius Randle. And Randle is like one of the most polarizing stars in the NBA because he's been all NBA 2 of the past 3 years. I mean, regardless of how you feel about the guy, you got to admit he has really been one of the best free agent signings in Knicks history. You could argue that Jalen Brunson could end up being the best, but Julius Randle's right up there. And, he gets a lot of hate, somewhat deserved. I'm not going to say fully deserved, but somewhat deserved for how he's performed in the playoffs. And I just want to gauge the temperature that you guys are at with Julius Randle right now and what you're expecting from him this upcoming season.
I got to pull up his stats
Let you
from
go,
last
Kai.
year's playoffs. I mean, I know he was hurt.
He was, and that's
Yeah.
something that no one
Yeah.
really brings up. People don't love hearing
you look
about
at
like
last
injuries
playoffs.
as an excuse, but last year he was injured, and not only that, he was coming off of multiple weeks of not playing basketball. Like imagine you're in the NBA, you don't play after playing an entire season pretty much. You go 2 weeks without playing, and then the next time you do play, you're playing Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, it was hard for him, I think, to even get in a rhythm last year because of those injuries. I mean, yeah, he got hurt and then he came back and then he got hurt again. I'm looking at his percentages, right? I remember because I'm looking at 2020, 2021. His 2020,
I'm talking about the
2021
Hawks. He
stats
didn't
are
do too well.
better. But
How much better?
But this is what I'm about to say. That's kind of, it's kind of scary actually. So he averaged 18 points a game in 2020, 2021, in the playoffs, 11.6 rebounds, 4 assists, and his shooting numbers.
Yeah, this is what matters.
Oh my God, he shot 29.8%. That's
Yep.
so
Yeah,
bad.
see, that's
okay,
what I'm
now
saying.
listen
He's
to
not a
last year
playoff
on the
performer.
games he. No, he's not. So
He's not?
and last year, 2022,
Julius Randle's a
2023
regular season
playoffs, he
merchant.
averaged. He averaged 16.6 points, so he averaged less points than the 2020-2021 playoffs, which is not a good sign because he was shooting so badly. And then he did shoot a little bit better, 37% field goal. He sucks in the playoffs if we're putting it
When you put
out
it
there.
like
I
that.
mean, I feel like everybody kind of knows that. Like we talked about, it's the
Well, when you
injuries.
put all the numbers and like actually what he's done, then look, there's no way you can
Grilling.
argue that he's been good in the playoffs. He hasn't. It's a fact.
Yeah,
But
Nice.
I gotta defend him. I feel like he gets too much hate. Let's go back to the first playoff series he had for the Knicks. He was by
Okay.
far the best player on that team. He was getting
Yeah.
double teamed.
No, it was
Bro,
Derrick Rose.
Who
Don't
else
not
was
try
not
to.
like?
Oh
Who
wait,
else do you?
yeah, it actually was Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose. Wait,
okay,
in
in
the
the third
playoffs,
quarter,
Derrick Rose
Derrick
is the
Rose.
best player. Derrick Rose is the best player in
Yeah.
the playoffs. I
In
will
the
say
playoffs,
that.
Because no
He
one,
was.
they weren't giving him the same kind of attention. I'm not trying to disrespect Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose was great
I
that
know.
year. They definitely don't make the 4 seed in 2020,
No,
2021
no.
without Derrick Rose in that trade. He was sensational. The effect he had was somewhat similar to the Josh Hart trade last year where they
Yeah.
get him middle of the year and the team just takes off. But Julius Randle never had a chance in that playoff series. It doesn't surprise me. This is a guy who was never a true number one option when he was on the Lakers and then
Yeah.
when he was on the Pelicans, and he comes here and he really ascended in his second year in New York. He had never experienced not only being in a playoff series like that, but being a number one option on a team where it was like him and then there's, Derrick Rose, and then there's Reggie Bullock, and
That's like,
I
yeah,
mean,
RJ.
Nerlens Noah. It's like it wasn't a good
Oh,
team,
man.
dude.
No,
We're
it
talking
wasn't.
about
No,
pure
it wasn't.
talent. Like that was a magician act from Tom Thibodeau last year. That year, I know it was a
Yeah.
shortened season, but in an 82 game season with that roster, I feel like if you simulated that like 100 times, the average number of wins would be like 38. Like they just weren't that good, man. They played good
No.
defense, and Julius Randle was amazing, but of course he wasn't going to play well. I don't really see how he should have been expected to play well, and I don't think that makes him a bad postseason performer, because if you put him on any other team where there's any other respectable option, the results are vastly different.
I just want to say one quick thing about Julius, man. Something that really gets on my nerves about his game. He doesn't know how to pass out of a double team. So, and that was one of his problems in that playoff series in 2020, where like he was the main guy. So like everybody was just doubling him, which is, a hard thing to deal with. Two people running at you every single play, and you're trying to like get points on the board for your team. Like I totally get it. But man, every time he tried to pass that ball, it seemed like it was going out of bounds. He was throwing it to the other team, and he kind of still struggles with that. Like, he doesn't really know how to pass out of the double team. And, like, he's had a couple of years now of, like, being the best guy on the Knicks, or, like, being one of our top performers. So, like, I feel like he's got to step it up in terms of, like, dealing with that being the number one option. I have to give him some slack because he's only had 2 years in the playoffs with us. So, but man, 29% is so bad. And 37% the next time is not much better. It's,
If he does it for a third time, then it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, you just hope that next time that we make the playoffs, he improves, and that it's a better series from him, because we have to rely on a guy like that when we consider him, probably I would consider him our second best player after Jalen Brunson right now in the Knicks. So
Absolutely, and I know this isn't a popular take right now, but I still think there's an argument to be made that he is still the best all-around player on this team.
yeah,
He doesn't always play
totally
defense, but he's
reasonable.
capable of being, competent defensively.
When he wants to,
And, he does have playmaking abilities. Jalen Brunson last year was, just based on the eye test, he was the leader of the team,
Yeah.
But Julius Randle's right there with him in terms of where they are as stars in this league. And for all my defense of Randle, what you pointed out, Kai, is exactly right. The guy doesn't know how to handle a double team.
Yeah.
And that's something that he hasn't really gotten better at. And I've mentioned this on a number of different episodes of the Knicks Pod when talking about Randle. When he is not going right, unlike the ability of some of the best players in the league, where if they're not going right, they're able to still provide and contribute in a positive way. Randle struggles with navigating game situations in which he just doesn't have his shots. Instead of passing the ball and contributing in other ways, something that Josh Hart does so well,
Yeah.
regardless of whether he's shooting well or not, he's so good at doing things behind the scenes that lead to wins. Randle seems to force things and get more reckless, and you can see a lot of times through his body language that he takes his emotions out on the court. And
Yeah.
look, if he ends up going to the playoffs this year, and we all expect that to happen, let's be honest, this would be a really disastrous season if the Knicks, the Knicks, you might as well call them the Knicks if they miss the playoffs this year. If the Knicks miss the playoffs, it'll be a disastrous season. But assuming they go, if Randle does what he's done in the past two series and he's healthy, then yeah, there's going to be some more serious discussion about, okay, this guy actually is a legitimate problem,
Concern.
and that's where the trade rumors surrounding him are going to heat up even more intensely than they already were this offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for Julius, it's just, you know what you're going to get with him now. I mean, in the regular season, we just have to see what he does come playoff time. If we get there, of course, which I know you guys all think we will, and I do too. But yeah, just, I hope he could perform, man. But those numbers that Kyle were reading out, yeah, it's definitely a little worrisome.
I didn't realize it was that bad, honestly. I haven't looked at his actual. I knew it was going to be crappy, but that's really bad, and it didn't really get much better. I mean, it's different because he was dealing with the injuries, so and he had to kind of deal with like coming back into the rhythm of the team, and Julius just reminds me of Carmelo, man. I got to talk about this a little bit. So I got to talk about Carmelo a little bit, being a lifetime Knicks fan. I am a bit of a Carmelo hater, But at the same time,
Ooh.
you know, he was obviously our best player that we've ever had on the team since I've been alive. The only reason I hate on Melo a little bit is because I feel like he kind of, in the same respect as Julius, they get into these funks where like they just don't really pass. And you know, Carmelo's a way better scorer than Julius ever will be. So that's like kind of like it's hard to compare them like that. But sometimes I'm watching as a fan and I'm like, shit, Julius Randle's giving me some Carmelo Anthony vibes right now. Like he's just kind of like not really moving the ball. Like he cuts off the movement of, you know, the team chemistry almost. Like we're like in the Cavs, like we were playing against the Cavs and like Julius was out, man. We secured that series without him. And it kind of makes you think like shit, like do we really need Julius? But
I
you know,
know.
at the same time, he's been one of our best players, so it's hard to say something like that. But
No, we do
these are the
need.
kind of thoughts that go through my head when I think about Julius. But no, I think we do need him, and he's a good player. But then another thing, like you mentioned earlier, Josh, was how he kind of the way he deals with his emotions on the court can be a bit concerning too. Like he really like gets a little frustrated at times is a nice way to put it. And his elbows start flying, man. That guy
Yeah. He
really
gets.
throws his elbows around. And I would hate to be on the other team playing Julius Randle and he's upset. I'd be like, bro, like you're not even playing basketball. You're just fucking angry.
Bro,
Like you're just fighting
honestly,
us.
I
Like
want to play him when he's upset though, because when Julius Randle's upset, he's not himself. Like he gets in his head, he's gonna miss his shots. It's
yeah.
just his whole vibe's off. You can
Yeah.
see it in his eyes, his elbows. You're just like, bro, like chill out. It's a fucking regular
Yeah.
season game. No need to fucking punch the ref or nah. He's never punched the ref, but
That would be
He
something.
just gets physical.
that would be something. Nah, that one season when what was it? It wasn't last year. It was 2 years ago. He hated us, Julius. Remember, he was like, he was booing the Knicks fans or something.
He
He
was
said,
he
"Shut
was
up."
Yeah, and
the
that's
thumbs
something
down. He was going like this to the crowd.
Oh yeah, he was
Yeah.
going like that. That's what it was.
He's not the only
I was at that
New
game.
York athlete to do that. A couple of years ago, Francisco Lindor and Javier Baez of the Mets did the exact same thing.
That's
Their
funny.
season was going to shit. You know, they were losing games. The fans were booing, and they basically booed them back. They gave them the thumbs down. But every time a New York athlete does that, you know, it never ends well for them. It just there's no, you're not going to defeat the fans. The fans
No.
are going to come. They're going to spend their hard-earned money, and they're going to boo the shit out of you if you play like crap. If
Yeah.
the Knicks win 28 games this year and Julius Randle is throwing hissy fits on the court left and right, he's going to get so freaking booed, dude. Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
going to be packing his bags for him, the fans are. So, look, man, Julius, he's got a lot to prove, which is crazy to say for a guy who's been a legitimate all-star for the majority of his time with the Knicks. But
Yeah.
and the craziest thing is, like we've mentioned, this proving himself is not going to take place during the regular season. It's going
No,
to
it's
take
not.
place in the playoffs. And I actually would like to touch on Kaya. You mentioned Carmelo, and I definitely see some of the similarities
Yeah.
in that, you know, regardless of whether Julius is going good or bad, when he's on the court, he is like he's the guy, which is,
Yeah.
you know, it makes last year kind of surprising with how things went just so well with Jalen Brunson. That probably has more to do with Brunson's leadership and his ability to get everyone involved. But Randall, man, he just the offense is stagnant when he's on the court,
Yeah.
and he's just dribbling and he doesn't always know what to do with the ball. And you know, it was somewhat different because they're different players, but with Melo, it was a lot of that. And I will say some of those Melo teams were so bad that I don't
Yeah.
really blame him. But
Yeah.
at the same time, there were many times where he was just chucking up shots just to
Yeah.
chuck up shots. And you know, amongst Knicks fans, I was definitely a Melo hater at times. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. Like he wasn't like, you know, the best thing in the world to me when we had him. Maybe I should have appreciated him more, but honestly, what did we really win with him?
I mean,
Nothing.
look, we just did the same what we did with Melo when he was on the team. You know, we just beat the Cavs in the first playoff series. I mean, did we even win 2 playoff series with Melo in the same year? I think we won 1 playoff
No.
series, went to the next round and lost. So, like, you know, everybody praises Melo, and I really want to like make myself clear. Like, I'm a Knicks fan, so I'm a Melo fan. But at the
Of
same
course.
time, there was just those really frustrating moments with Melo where he was just a jock at times, and like you said, it like his team wasn't as good. So there's you got to give him some slack because like I'd rather probably Melo at times take the shot over some of the other guys that were on his team. Um, but yeah, I mean, sometimes it also just ruins the team chemistry. It ruins the ball movement, and like you never really know what kind of shot's going to come if you just keep passing the ball. I mean, ball movement is like that. That's why basketball is a team sport, man. You got 5 people on the court. You got to pass that shit. The best teams have ball movement. It's simple. I mean,
Look at the
it,
Nuggets.
it's that's just the way basketball works. Yeah, it always has been like that, and you know that's why we need ball movement. But um, you were talking about Jalen Brunson a little bit too. I want to talk about him. I mean, man, that guy's my favorite Knicks player I think ever since I've been alive. We've had him for 1 year, man.
Ever.
But holy
Kai, I feel like
shit,
we're agreeing on a lot of things, and it's always fun to stir the pot and disagree. But like, yes, I agree with you. I was
yeah,
kind of
man,
a Mellow hater, and I also agree with you. Brunson, even after just one season, is hands down my favorite Nick that has ever played in my lifetime.
yeah, agreed,
Mine's
man.
RJ.
Yeah,
I'm
RJ's
RJ.
close. I think RJ, man. We were talking
RJ's
about it a little bit
ours.
this morning. I think
You have to
RJ. Yeah, it's
good.
different exactly because we
We
drafted him.
draft him, yeah.
I think hopefully after last year's playoffs, which were really really promising, and then what he's doing in FIBA now, I think RJ could have a big leap this upcoming season. But just gotta cross our fingers and hope that actually
I know,
happens. We'll
right?
see.
Well,
It's
look,
very
RJ is going to hold the biggest weight on how this season ends up going because basically he's had very high stretches, very low stretches. When you look at his numbers, they've been overall pretty similar, give or take some changes in his shooting percentages. But if he actually becomes that consistent player and shows what he did in the playoffs last year for some of those games over a full season, that will take the Knicks to the next level. And that's the most realistic way that they can go from like viable, respectable playoff team to legitimate championship contender in one season. It's all up to RJ. If he actually takes that next step, then they have 3 extremely talented star level players leading that roster. If he doesn't, and he's about what he has been for the past 2 or 3 years, then it's going to be more of the same, except he'll probably get even more hate because then people will be like, well, he's been here, 5 years now and he hasn't gotten that much better. So that's going to have a large bearing on the outcome of this season. But speaking of which, Bleacher Report recently came out with their NBA predictions, and I think they gave the Knicks a lot of respect here, guys. They have them going 48-34. I don't remember off the top of my head which seed they have them as, but I'd imagine it would be top 4 with 48 wins in the Eastern Conference. And based on what you guys have seen, we're all on social media, we all read the comments, and of course, regardless of how good the Knicks are, they're going to have tons of haters, and they're also going to have tons of people gassing them up because they have a huge fan base. Do you get the sense that the Knicks, by the media in general, are being underrated, overrated, or generally respected accurately for who they are?
I think 48-34, you said? I think that's pretty respectable. I thought they might have
Yeah.
dissed us a little bit. I thought they were going to give us like 44 wins, but dude, 48 wins? I actually might agree with ESPN here. I think that, or was it ESPN or that made the prediction?
That was
Or
Bleacher
was it that
Report.
Oh, Bleacher, okay, same thing-ish. But yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with them. I think that's a good, solid record. Gets us in the playoffs, no play-in. And I mean, if I'm not expecting on RJ Barrett to make a leap here. If he does, I think we could get 50 wins. But if we're
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like the team we were last year, I think that's a fair prediction. It's very fair.
Yeah, that's Kaya's trying to jump in here. Connor, I don't know
Oh,
about you, but I cannot hear what Kaya's saying right
yeah,
now. I can't hear his audio.
I can't hear him either.
It's all
Uh-oh.
good.
Right?
Well,
We
Kaya
lost him.
is briefly gone, so hopefully he'll get back in the studio real soon. But yeah, man, like honestly, 48 and 34 in my most unbiased prediction I can give, I would say the Knicks are winning 45 games. Like most unbiased, I actually think technically they take a step back just because I'm accounting for the fact that I think the Celtics, Bucks, Cavaliers, and especially I think the Heat are going to win more games. I guess that would only decrease the Knicks win total by like 1 or 2 depending on how they do against them, but I think it's going to be a very tough Eastern Conference, and the fact of the matter is I'm not sure how much better this Knicks roster has actually gotten this offseason because yes, they added Dante DiVincenzo and he's a solid role player, no doubt about it, but they also traded Obi Toppin, and I forgot to mention this when we were talking about Randle earlier, but Kaya brought up the fact that they moved the ball so well and they looked so, good during that Cleveland series without Randle. Well, they're not going to have that luxury to do that this year, most likely, because they don't have Obi Toppin. Like, who's going to be their power forward if Randle's not in there? It's not going to be someone that has the sheer talent that Obi Toppin does. I know that. So they're gonna need more out of Randle. They're gonna need him to play every single game, and they're gonna need Dante to be a very important piece of this bench unit, and they're gonna need Emmanuel quickly to do what he did last year, which, let's be honest, was by far the best play he's had in his career over a full season. So I think in order for the Knicks to exceed their win total from last year, a lot of things have to go right, and I can't with a straight face try to give you an unbiased prediction that that's going to happen. Don't get me wrong, though. I have them at 45 wins, so I still expect this team to be good. I still expect them to be a playoff team, but I think it's hard to forecast them doing significantly better, unless, of course, as we've mentioned, RJ Barrett does take that next step. But based on what we've seen, it's kind of impossible to predict that because the only thing you can predict with him is unpredictability. So, Kaya, if
can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Let's go.
No, I got a call just now in the middle of it. I'm like, shit, this is.
No, you're good, bro.
Okay, all right, cool. Yeah, I got a call and it kind of messed with the audio, so I was like, okay, let me just.
No, you're good. You're good.
Back. All right. No, I mean, I think, yeah, I would hope that we could get 50 wins this year. That'd be pretty cool. I mean,
that would be great.
I think we have the team to do it. What was our record last year?
We were 47 and 35.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I think a good goal then would be 50 wins. I feel like we can achieve it too. I mean, like, I know we didn't really get many new players. I mean, pretty much just like DiVincenzo was like the only real like guy that's going to make like that much of an impact for us. But I think, honestly, I think with, just his one addition that it's going to change a lot. And, I think RJ's going to improve. Jalen's definitely going to improve. I mean, he has one year of experience kind of like being like that leader. So I think he's only going to get better too. So I think, yeah, I feel like we should get at least 50 wins and be like in the top 5 seeds. I don't think we should be in the play-in. It was funny because last year I remember that was like kind of the way it was going. Everybody was just like, oh yeah, you guys are going to be in the play-in. And then like we got Josh Hart and things kind of turned around and we started winning a bunch. So we didn't have to deal with that. I really don't want to deal with the play-in. But yeah, I think, top 5, hopefully like the 5th or the 4th seed is what I'm aiming for us with 50 wins or more.
Yeah, I think the 4th or 5th seed is a reasonable expectation. 50 wins, I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't think it's like the most likely thing to happen. I would say it's more likely they win like 44 games than win 50.
Yeah.
Just because, as I said, this is a tough Eastern Conference, and you look at the Miami Heat last year, they only won, 43, 44 games, and they went on a run to the finals. You got to think they're going to win significantly more games than that if they get Dame. And, I mean, the Brooklyn Nets, obviously, we're not going to be talking about them as a serious playoff threat, but, like, even after the whole disaster of the KD Kyrie era ended, like, they're not a terrible team. They're going to be a scrappy bunch that's going to fight for a play-in. That's another team in the Knicks conference, in the Knicks division, who they're going to have to play a lot. The Magic are going to probably, you'd think, be better because they're young. They have solid young players. They're going to be another year older. And the Hawks, another candidate to be better. We don't really know. I mean, so I think 45 wins would be acceptable. Anything more than that for me would be awesome. But yeah, man, it's tough to do that much better when you don't add any superstars to the team because that's just the way the NBA is. But that's why RJ Barrett kind of holds all the cards for the potential of this team. But if they are going to get a superstar, then they're probably going to have to trade a lot of their assets. And boy, do they have several of those. And Bleacher Report recently ranked NBA teams according to their future draft assets, and the Knicks were ranked third on that list behind only the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. And those are two teams that in recent years had undergone major rebuilds. The Knicks obviously not in that situation. The Knicks have just, accumulated a lot of draft picks through trades over the past couple years while simultaneously trying to contend. So with that being said, when and if do you expect a major trade for the New York Knicks?
What do you think, Connor?
I don't know. You never know when to expect a major
Can you
trade.
hear me?
It's definitely
Okay.
not happening this offseason. I can tell you that. But, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe if we have a disastrous season and we need, because what are we going to do? Are we just going to, I know we kind of been bashing Julius Randle a little bit, but, are we really just going to, trade him for another superstar and just try to make that work? I mean, we might. Very well might happen. But I think we honestly let these guys get a run, and then maybe in a year or two, we send the bag. Because, I would kind of like to use some of these draft picks because what the fuck? We have the third most, and we haven't
that's
been
kind of the
using
purpose
any,
of
so,
having them, right? It's
you want
I
to
know
use them, or I
it's
guess
kind of a waiting game. We keep hearing about all these drafts.
yeah, but maybe they are planning to stack up their picks to trade for a superstar. That could very well be it. I just don't know when it's going to happen. I hope it's not this year, though, because I just don't know who we get. I don't want to break anything.
I don't think it's
we have a
happening this
good
year.
thing going
I think
here.
if it was to happen, no, I think if anything, God, I feel like I think about the nightmare of when everybody thought we were going to get Zion Williamson, Kyrie Irving,
No.
and who was there was somebody else.
Oh,
KD.
yeah. Well, we also thought that they would rig the lottery to give us
KD.
Zion.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be I remember everybody in that offseason. Yeah, it was going to be Kyrie and KD, and then also people were like, and we're getting Zion. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I feel like this happens every single offseason. You kind of touched on it at the beginning of the show, Josh. There's the crazy expectations and rumors of, who are the Knicks getting this year. But man, honestly, I don't really expect the Knicks to get anybody every offseason because we never ever make a big time trade. When was the last time? Melo was the last trade we probably
And let's
made.
be honest, that didn't work out well.
And it wasn't really that even great of a trade. I think if anything, if there was for something to happen next year, I would hope, or if there was something to happen, I would think it would be next offseason. Besides Paul George, there wasn't really much of a superstar, and people were asking for too much for Paul George, man. I don't even want to give up some of our current players and picks for George because of his age and his history with injuries. So, I guess next year we'll see what happens, but I really don't expect much in the offseason from the Knicks, man. It doesn't really seem like we make many superstar trades ever.
Well, I'll tell you what, 1 year from today, Joel Embiid will be a Knick.
Oh yeah,
I've said that.
I remember
I've
that.
said
Wow,
that
let's go.
on previous episodes. I stand by it. I'm not
August
going to
29th,
flip flop.
2023.
It is all predicated on this season. Outside of winning a championship, which is obviously the ultimate goal of every franchise in every sport, we know that.
Yeah.
the realistic goal, because I don't think championship is realistic. Now, maybe making a run and maybe they go on, maybe they do, but realistically, the goal of this season is go back to the playoffs, win a playoff round again, basically achieve everything they did last season and secure the Knicks as a respectable destination. And if they do that for one more year and they hold on to those assets, and it looks like they will, because what are they going to do with them at this point? I am very confident, assuming that the Sixers flame out like they always do, and it looks like they're off to a roaring start to this season. James Harden is like trying to just get his way out of town. They look like they're going to be a disaster. Even if they end up making the playoffs, like no one takes the Sixers seriously. And I don't really see them as a true viable championship team. And assuming I'm right about that, Joel Embiid to the Knicks. It's happening. Like
I got to say something about Joel though, man. When it comes playoff time, he doesn't really seem to do much either.
I know Kai saw that Twitter thread.
We're just racking up all the stars who can't do shit in the playoffs. Julius, could you imagine how toxic that would be?
No,
Yo,
we'd have to trade. That would be crazy.
The guy won MVP. Obviously, I would absolutely love that sort of player to be on the Knicks because he's fucking amazing. But
he's the MVP.
I mean, like when you think about it, like, is he really going to make that much of a change to a team like the Knicks? I mean, he's got look at what he's done with the 76ers. I mean, they've had some really, really decent talent around him for a good amount of time now, and he hasn't really been able to. I mean, there was the Raptors situation where Kawhi hit that ridiculous shot. So, I mean, that was probably their best chance. And, he did come pretty close. But, yeah, Joel Embiid scares me a little bit. But a guy like Giannis, who I've been seeing in rumors, now that guy, I would love that. I would so much prefer Giannis over Embiid. I feel like most probably NBA fans would agree. But yeah, I think, there's been those rumors about next year, what's going to happen with Giannis and, his contract's up. And, I mean, that just kind of seems like another, the Knicks are in the talks for the superstar again this offseason. Like, probably something that's unlikely.
It's one of those.
But, man, that, people can dream, right? Knicks fans can dream. That would be just unbelievable, man. That would be crazy.
I think Giannis is the best player in the league, so I would take him any day. I think
I agree with that for sure. Yeah, I think sheer ability, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, I have a couple things to say about, what Kai just said. So, number one, I think that even though the sheer talent on this Knicks team at the top, probably doesn't quite match what the Sixers have had from their top talent over the past couple years, I think the Knicks as a roster holistically are built better than most of the teams that Joel's been on. One of the main weaknesses of the Sixers has been their depth. And that's actually one of the biggest strengths, I believe, with the Knicks, is that they have one of the best benches in the NBA. And hopefully, in the event of a Joel Embiid trade, they're not trading too many of those pieces. You'd think they wouldn't necessarily have to if, A, Joel is, forcing his way out of Philly, and B, because the Knicks have all these draft picks, they wouldn't need to give up so many players. Maybe they'd need to give up Quentin Grimes if they need to. If that's like one of the only players, fine, you do it still. Yeah. And the other thing is that Giannis, look, I'm not going to say Joel Embiid's better than Giannis. I just agreed with you. Giannis is the best player in the NBA, but I just really feel like he's going to stay with Milwaukee, and I feel like it's very unlikely Milwaukee's a first-round exit again this year.
Yeah.
And even though they were last year, they were still probably the best team in the Eastern Conference. Let's be honest. They were. Like, over the 82-game season, they were, and they just had a really crappy series against the Heat. Yeah. And Giannis got hurt, of course, which played a part in that. We don't – now, I will say they still could have lost that series if he stayed healthy. Maybe not, but it's not like they were dominating or flourishing with him on the court. But Joel seems like the most realistic option to me, and I think that the Knicks have a more holistically well-rounded roster than what the Sixers have had. So I do think that Joel and the Knicks, with Brunson here, if Barrett continues to get better, and Quentin Grimes and some of these other guys, with Josh Hart, I do feel like they'll be capable of winning a championship, and I do feel like Embiid is in my opinion, by far the most realistic piece to happen. But don't get me wrong, man. We get Giannis, that would just be that. I
That'd be
mean,
amazing.
that would be. I'd be elated. I'd be planning the parade already. But we'll see,
Yeah.
man.
No, I
This is
agree. I
Probably
mean,
have to give up our whole team to get him, though. So I don't
it's
know.
Yeah.
Giannis
Trade
is
RJ,
probably
Julius.
unlikely. Giannis is probably unlikely, and I feel like I agree with your point about like Joel would be more manageable, I think, to actually like have and somehow acquire, whether it's through trade or whatever, you know. Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, we could use anybody we can get. So I mean, we're talking about
That's for
Giannis
sure.
and Joel. These guys are fucking stars, superstars in the NBA. So you know, we'll see.
We will see. And yeah, man, that's what this time of year is for. It's just for speculation, and I have a full year to be proven wrong on this Joel Embiid thing. So we'll see what ultimately happens with that. And yeah, man, the offseason continues to roll on. Another episode of the Knicks Pod. And, you know, as the offseason continues, we'll all be right here, and we'll continue with the podcast. So, Kaya, what we always do at the end of these episodes, it doesn't always go over that smoothly, but we end it with I'm Josh Byrne. He goes, I'm Connor Thompson. And I guess in this case, you'd also say your name.
Cool.
And then we go, and you've been listening to the Knicks Pod. We all say it at the same time. So I'll start off the outro of the episode. I'm Josh Byrne.
I'm Connor Thompson.
There we go. And I'm Kai Esgun.
Wait, Ty, you're just
And you've been listening to the Knicks Pod.
Yeah. All right, wait, hold up.
No, I think for some
wait,
reason,
Kai, so yeah,
Connor,
just say
I
your
didn't
full
hear you
name
when you
after
were talking
mine.
just now.
I didn't hear
him
him either.
me.
Oh, wait, you didn't hear me?
Yeah.
I'm Josh Byrne.
I'm Connor Thompson.
I'm Josh Byrne.
And I'm
Connor
Kai
Thompson.
Esgun.
And you've been listening.
To... Dude, this is way off.
No, I think there's just poor connection here.
There's like a delay or something right now.
Okay, let's try it again.
Yes.
There is a delay.
Yeah.
All right.
How about
So with that, I'm Josh Byrne.
I'm Connor Thompson.
I'm Kai Esgun. And you've been
listening to the Knicks Pod. We're just gonna end with
that,
that,
work, gentlemen.
Peace.
All right, guys.
We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. Say go New York.